3.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Idiomatic Top 3.
With Nicholas, I'm the video game correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. And today we're talking about neither video games or movies.
No, talking about television.
Yes.
Kind of an extension of the Don't F the Original series we have. We're kind of extending that one to television. So basically our top 3 TV series that F'd with the original.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. And one of the reasons we wanted to do that one is because there are so many movies adapted into TV shows that are coming out in the coming years.
Yeah.
And we were like, TV's not very good at adapting TV, so...
Pretty much, So anything that, gets adapted to TV, we're going to try and find the top 3 ones that failed miserably for us.
Pretty much. I have a feeling that there'll be a lot of ranting involved, so I think we might as well just get started right away.
All right. So my number 3 is Beast Wars, which was a Transformers series. It followed in the veins of, the original series, which had dozens of robots on each side fighting, for Cybertron, the domination of Cybertron. And all of a sudden, you go to Beast War and there's 3 robots on each side. That was really, really disappointing to me.
It was a little bit more than that, but yeah, it felt that way certainly.
It was very, very little amount. And also, it was at the time of crummy CGI. CGI had just come out. I know I should give it a shot because it was new and exciting. No, I don't want to give it a shot. If it looks crummy, I'm going to say it looks crummy. As a sort of a sequel to Transformers, a continuation of the series, trying to do something, new, it was that was a complete failure to me.
I disagree with you. I think Beast Wars holds up pretty well, actually. It was by Mainframe Entertainment, for those of you wondering, the same company that did Reboot.
Okay.
And yeah, it's that level of CGI as about the same as the early seasons of Reboot, if you will. I completely understand the appeal of Hasbro going hey, you want a Transformers license? Because robots, CGI, I think it must have clicked, especially since they did just before that Transformers Generation 2, which was just old Transformers episode with enhanced 3D special effects in it, which were really a lot worse than in Beast Wars, I have to say.
I can't count that one because I didn't watch it, so, I have to be honest here. But I don't know, if you're going to make robots, why have them transform into animal, which I can see looks really fake because I know what the animal looks like. So
well, I think that has to do with the toy line,
of course,
more than anything.
Yeah.
And also, there is the advantage as well that you don't have to make humans. Because they're in prehistoric times, no humans. So you can actually make the drama about the robots, which I have to say every subsequent Transformers series, Beast Machines excluded, has suffered from trying to deal with human characters way too much.
Yes. That is one thing I will give the series. I never understood why there were humans in the series about robots being awesome. Why would I care about that tiny human there on the wheelchair in season 1 or 2 of the Transformers? I was I didn't care about that kid. I really didn't. I'm sorry, you little handicapped kid, but I didn't care about you at all. But again, I really like the fact that in the original series there were so many robots that, it was almost a badge of honor of knowing all of them, and you still had your favorites, and you got really excited when you saw your favorite on the screen in a certain episode. If you had seen them in every episode, it would have kind of gotten boring. After a while, I was oh, it's him again, and that's kind of my problem I had with Beast Wars. It's hey, it's the same guys over and over again, and kind of boring.
Yeah, and in fairness, the cast did increase as the series went on, and Transformers kept changing allegiances, which was a lot of fun. It's one of those series that had a very slow start, and then near the end of its run was actually pretty awesome. Talking about Generation 1, what's kind of cool about Beast Wars is that near the end of its run, they brought back the original Megatron, they brought back the original Optimus Prime, because since the ship crashed in prehistoric times in the original Transformers cartoon, this new generation of Transformers who traveled back in time to that time managed to find the mountain where those ships crashed and awaken those G1 Transformers.
Okay, I don't care. That's how I judge it.
Alright. My number 3 pick is a Canadian remake of an American show.
Oh, cool.
It's So You Think You Can Dance Canada, because you know that I can't go through a television-themed episode of this podcast without bringing up So You Think You Can Dance.
Of course.
Okay, first of all, there's so many problems with this. The first being that Canadian citizens were allowed to participate in So You Think You Can Dance, period. So, what's the point?
Good point. That's a very good point.
Second is, okay, so you had different judges, you had a different production crew, and that's where the show lost me. The production crew was terrible, first of all. They didn't know how to film a dance thing without like trying to get into it, like, and move the camera. It's like, don't move the camera. The people are already moving. Like, just stay put. Give us the show as it was meant, as it was choreographed, you stupid head.
That's crazy.
Too many close-ups during the auditions. It's like, I don't care what her face looks like. I want to see what her dance is like, because that's what she's auditioning for, dumbass.
You think that's like, and the editor like over editing again and trying to be like too fancy, trying to overdo his job?
I don't understand why you even have close-up shots. Like, just keep your camera still. Don't give us a full ensemble view of the dance move. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for me that, I'm going to a dance recital. I'm going to zoom in on the guy's face with my binoculars. And I was like, I wonder what he looks like. Oh shit, I'm missing everything. It's stupid.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the fact that at every Canadian competition show, game show has that same problem. Is that they don't realize that we're in Canada. Like, they keep acting as if Canada has the American equivalent of whatever,
Yeah.
And so, they'd have the auditions all across Canada, which is great. And then they was like, you're getting a ticket to Toronto! And like, they're acting as if like, it's all exciting. And it's not. It's like, it's really, really not.
Oh my god, Toronto. When you go from Vegas to Toronto and you try to have the same enthusiasm for those cities. No offense to people who live in Toronto. You have a pretty cool city, but not compared to Vegas. Really, I'm sorry.
Exactly. Vegas has the connotation of being this awesome party place, this sort of like mecca of hedonism.
Yeah.
And so if you're going you're going to Vegas for auditions, it's Vegas. It's cool. Yeah. It's Vegas.
It's Vegas. At least if you don't make the audition, at least you're in Vegas for, a couple of extra days and you get to have fun, It's like, you're in Toronto. I guess I'll go sightseeing afterwards.
It's just so ridiculous. And then you have the problem with the judges. And in Canadian culture, one of the things is we don't say anything negative. It's part of our culture.
I don't believe that's true. But
no, actually, counter-argue, please.
You're about to say something negative, and you're Canadian.
No, but like, to people's face.
Oh, okay.
To people, no, we bitch and whine like the best of them, but...
Yeah, right. To people's face, you're right. We don't. We're usually quite polite about that.
Yeah. And it's not a good thing, always. Like, there's something to be said about being upfront. Like, it's for any viewers from outside of Canada going like, there he goes, tooting his Canadian horn. No, I'm not saying that as a good thing. I'm just saying as a statement of fact that tends to be our tendency.
Yeah.
And that tends to lead to not honest and straightforward conversation.
Just an example, a little side of how that's not good. You receive a dish that's not good in the restaurant. The Canadian thing is just, well, okay, I'll just eat it and shut my mouth and, pay for it, Whereas, if the food is crap, you tell the waitress there's something wrong with my food, you might get it fixed and have something better, Sometimes you have to be honest and say when things are wrong. It's not a perfect thing that we're like very polite with everybody. There's certain cases where you need to be direct, even if it's still hurtful.
Yeah, and it could not be more true for things like giving feedback.
Yes, indeed.
If the dancer's shit, stop saying he's wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, the way it works on So You Think You Can Dance is people vote for the people they want to keep. And then the 3 people who have the least vote,
yeah,
the judges eliminates one of them.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Which, it's fine. And it's a way for the judges to sort of keep a quality control. If there's a contestant that's good, but people don't like her face or whatever, and haven't warmed up to her or him, it gives them a chance to keep that person around until the public sort of goes like, oh wow, that is a talented dancer.
Yeah, makes sense.
The American show will go, all right, well, you did this. Like, okay, well, the reason why you're in the bottom, we're guessing, is because you're not connecting with the audience because you don't do this, you don't do that. And this other person, they'll go like, well, we've talked to the choreographers and they find that one of the problems is that we tell you to do something, you do it, and then 2 minutes later you stop doing it, and that is hindering your performance. Like, they give you a really frank, honest, American style feedback, which I'm a big fan of, to be honest. I think people should be straightforward when it comes to feedback.
Yeah.
And In Canada, instead, they'd be like, "You're wonderful. Your farts smell like roses. You're perfect. Nobody should ever have eliminated you. By the way, you're out of our show."
Yeah. How are you going to get better? Really? I got kicked off because I was wonderful. It's ridiculous.
And it had this weird reaction of it was even more offensive for the contestants because they'd be like, "Well, if I'm so good, why'd you kick me out?"
Yeah.
As opposed to if you say like, "You're good, but you have problems here and here, so we're kicking you out," you'd be like, "Oh, okay, I should work on that, I guess."
Yeah.
It's less hurtful in a way.
Yeah.
And then it was hurtful for the audience as well because they were like, "Well, why'd you kick her out?"
Yeah. Because you just didn't like her face or something? What is it?
So they started getting letters. It was like, "Why'd you kick her out? Why don't you explain it?" And instead of starting to explain it, here's what they said. "We just systematically take out the person who got the least votes. So it's Canada's own fault."
So why even have judges then?
Exactly. That's my first problem with that. It's like, well, you're not doing your job then. You're supposed to be the backup, the net for that.
Yeah.
And second, don't you blame your audience for your own failures? Like,
that's terrible.
You coward. Like, stand up for what you do, for God's sakes. And if you're gonna blame anyone, not your audience, you stupid head. Like, do you not know how entertainment works?
I'm gonna also be as morally indignant as you were.
Okay.
With my show, it's a remake of a Canadian show. Canadian show is called Canada's Worst Driver.
Mm-hmm.
They imported it to the US to make it, of course, America's Worst Driver.
Ooh, opposite direction. Interesting.
Yeah, I know. Canada's Worst Driver is actually pretty entertaining. It's on the Discovery Channel. It's about learning to be a better driver. So they get those, I think 7 or 8 bad drivers. They all have pretty much different problems. Some of them are speed, some of them are not confident, some of them just never had any driving lessons. And they basically train them to be better drivers and through like crazy challenges. But still, these challenges have a point, and like it learn to steer straight, or learn to turn properly, or learn to back up. And as the week go by, they eliminate like one, and as drivers become better and better, they eliminate the better ones, and eventually the person that has evolved the least gets the title Canada's Worst Driver, which is kind of a joke fake trophy. But they pretty much tell that person maybe you shouldn't be driving. Is what they tell them. It's a very good show. It teaches people habits of good driving. I really enjoy watching it, even though it's almost the same thing every season. It's very enjoyable to me, and I don't even drive. Okay, so that's how enjoyable it is. So they poured it into the U.S. It was on the Comedy Network because, of course, bad driving is funny. And basically, the concept was you brought in your own car, and if you were the worst driver at the end of the show, they destroyed your car. Okay, at the finale, you could get a new car back, if you got better, but. It was really weird how those stunts were, because there was, like, for example, one backing up challenge, which was like, the fastest time gets to go home. Driving is not a race. You're supposed to drive to make sure you don't hit anything, that you're safe. That's the point of driving. It's not to go faster than everybody else. That's America's best race car driver. I could see that. When you're trying to do something like America's Worst Driver, it's not teaching anything to anybody, really. It's just making fun of those these people can't drive, what a bunch of suckers, they're not learning anything either. And that show made me really, really mad. It's like you completely destroyed a show that was ported in like a bunch of other countries. I don't think Canada was the original one, but the concept stayed the same in like many, many, many other countries, especially in Europe and stuff like that. They port it in the US and they make it a joke, and that just it boiled my blood, really.
Yeah, no, I can understand why. I mean, driving ridiculously fast in situations where you really shouldn't is one of the most common things that bad drivers do that cause mortal accidents, in fact.
Yeah.
So, encouraging somebody who already has bad habits to go as fast as possible is just insanely stupid.
Yeah. So, it's like, a good thing it only had one season. And it's like... Because this show is actually counter to what it's supposed to be doing. I guess the guy who came up with the idea just sold it to the US saying, I need some money, but, they really didn't stay true to the concept. And
I'm guessing it's Comedy Network that might have retooled the thing more and more to emphasize the joke instead of what the original concept was. And that's the sort of thing that the franchise owner has no power over.
Okay. Because don't get me wrong, the one on Discovery Channel in Canada is funny, but they still learn stuff while, sort of being funny to us because sometimes the challenges are really, really wacky. Like to be sure that they're smooth drivers, that they don't be herky jerky. They basically have a giant tank of water on top of the car with tubes that go inside of the car. So if they're herky jerky, the water kind of flows and gets them all wet. Yeah. And their reaction is hilarious, especially the women that wear makeup because they end up looking like Alice Cooper at the end of the thing. So it can still be funny and still be educational because then you learn, okay, maybe you shouldn't stop this abruptly and you're going to have a smooth ride, for your passengers and yourself. Learning stuff. It's not like go as fast as possible and you will win. It's just, no, this is not what driving should be.
No.
Anyway, that was my angry rant. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is a show that actually on our previous site at thedreamersedge.com, I reviewed the entire series one episode at a time. Wow. And that's V.
Okay.
The remake of V. Like, there's the original V in the 80s, which was a pretty good miniseries. Okay. That spun off into a pretty mediocre ongoing series.
Nice.
Well, actually, 2 good miniseries that spun off into a mediocre ongoing series. And then got remade in 2008, 2009 into another really god-awful TV series again on ABC. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's an alien invasion, but an alien invasion made by diplomacy.
Okay.
And so the aliens arrive and they say, well, they came to Earth because they need water, but they can exchange it for their technology.
Sorry. I'm already laughing because, hydrogen and oxygen are probably the most common, after helium, oxygen is one of the most common atom in the universe, and hydrogen is the most common. So water is super common throughout the universe. Sorry, that was me, the science geek in me.
No, I get it. That didn't bother me because I didn't know. And they're willing to exchange it for their technology and whatnot and create a human relationship. And slowly they sort of invade and take over the culture. And through political manipulation, they sort of just flat out subjugate the human race. And so that's what the first 4 episodes of the series were about, which is in keeping with the original.
Which would make it quite interesting, actually.
But the ratings weren't great.
Of course, it's a show that just began. What were they expecting?
Yeah, 4 episodes in. Yeah. But a lot of what the problem is that the internet was present for people to bitch and whine, and the network got scared and got like, oh, we got to change and react to that feedback because that feedback was pretty unilateral. And they were full of questions like, this show's stupid. If they wanted to invade the planet and they have all this technology, why don't they just blow us up? It's like, and the answer to that is that blowing the crap out of stuff is one way to invade things, but it's not the only way.
It's not the best way, though, because things are damaged afterwards.
Exactly.
If you want the planet intact, you do it in a more subtle way.
Exactly. And it's not common in history that people have done it that way.
Yeah.
And certainly through diplomatic means and political means is a much more efficient way of doing things. And that was the point of the show, that your freedom can be taken away with a smile instead of a bomb.
Just look at what happened, Austria during World War II. Germany just moved in and they had this like sham vote. Do you want to be joined to Germany? And, then they pretty much, had people vote at gunpoint, you want to join with Germany? And, the yes won somehow, And that's how they did it. They didn't blow up Austria. They just kind of annexed it, like, quote unquote, voluntarily. Mm. And that's those, that's one way of doing it. I'm not saying Germany was great for doing it. It's just an example of how it could happen. It's another way that, hey, Austria was not destroyed in the process. So kind of good for them in that way, So I could see that kind of invasion be so much more interesting in a TV show because that's not what you expect to see when you're seeing invasion. All we see right now is just, explosion, and you invade with guns and tanks and planes. That would have been so much more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it started off that way, and then after all that feedback, they decided to go on hiatus for a while and come back with a new production team that gave what the quote-unquote fans wanted, and so delivered on a lot of explosions and really stupid characters doing really stupid stuff. And it was really unbearable for 2 years. Changing creative teams every 6 months or so.
Oh, that helps a lot too.
It's like another Bionic Woman. I don't know if you guys remember that. We didn't list it in our top 3, but it was another remake show that was a catastrophe because in 6 episodes they managed to get 7 creative teams. So that's kind of a record.
That's spectacular. Which episode had 2 creative teams?
The first one.
Okay.
The first one.
Oh my god, was it a 2-hour pilot or something?
It was a 1-hour pilot that was conceived one way, then they changed the creative team. So that's one change of creative. Well, that's 2 creative teams already. They shot it all, and then the networks changed their minds again about it, and so they reshot large parts of it to retool it again. So in that one episode, there were 3 creative teams.
Oh, that's terrible. I wonder why that show flopped.
No, it suffered from a huge identity crisis, definitely. Yeah.
So my number 1 is, again, a show that was from the US to Canada. So I keep changing the border from Canada to US to Canada. But it was the Quebec version of The Price is Right, which was called, it was called Mise Juste for people who speak French. It was basically pretty much an exact remake of The Price is Right, except that they didn't have the budget of The Price is Right, which made it hilarious when, the price that, a person can win after a game is a toaster oven. It's kind of pathetic. And when in the showcases, they don't win cars, they win 1-year car rental. So you get,
oh no!
Yes, you get to use the car for a year, which seems kind of silly to me. That means you have to cancel your current contract. You get that car for a year, and then you have to go rent another one. Or if you own a car already, what the hell do you do with your 1-year car contract? You need like a bigger driveway all of a sudden. It just seems ridiculous to me. Why would people go on there to win a 1-year car rental and like a trip to somewhere in Quebec because they couldn't afford anywhere else in the world? That you basically went to there by bus and stuff like that. It was just, oh my god, this is terrible. The point of The Price is Right is to be excited when people win the prizes. They're super happy, yay, and oh my god, they won a car and a trip around the world. This is sweet.
Yeah, especially since it's such a stupid game.
Yeah, but now it's like, oh, yay, she won a toaster oven. I threw one of those away because I didn't like it. It's ridiculous.
One of the things as well, for those of you who are not familiar with The Price is Right, is that you win what you guess the price of.
Yeah.
So the point of it being big prizes is not just that it's exciting to get a big prize. It's also there's some challenge for somebody who's from middle or lower class trying to figure out how much a yacht costs.
Yeah.
Because how the hell would I know? I've never been near a yacht. I work at minimum wage all my life, and so did my dad. You know what I mean?
Pretty much.
But somebody from middle or lower class guessing the price of a toaster, well, I bought that one yesterday.
Yeah. It was pretty much it, it just, and I can't really blame them. I mean, they did what they could with their budget. I mean, their audience is only like 6 million people because, Quebec is a small market. So they didn't really have a choice, that's the maximum amount of viewer they could actually wish to get is 6 million. So the sponsors couldn't, they weren't willing to give like a $20,000 car to the show if, the publicity is so small. So I can get that, but it kind of completely missed the point of the original, which is like awesome prizes that you would never, win in your life because you're kind of lower to middle class, and all of a sudden you get a yacht. Sweet. You didn't get that, so it was kind of almost depressing to watch, really.
Such a... Oh, I gotta say also, like, Price is Right, a lot of it is the host. I thought Bob Barker was terrific. I think Drew Carey's the right choice, given the show's new demographic.
Yeah.
You have to have that level of talent hosting the show, and if I remember correctly, it was a complete nobody who hosted
it was a nobody that we never heard of before. He was just playing it straight, like, this is very serious, and I'm doing something that, if I do wrong, the world will end. So no jokes, no nothing, almost no enthusiasm when the guy won. I guess, how could you have enthusiasm when the guy wins a toaster? But still, fake it or something. Come on.
Although that would almost be sadder. Like, there's a certain right? It's like, oh my god, you got a toaster. It toasts red, man. Oh my god.
Yeah. You want to try it now? Can we plug it in?
Now it sounds condescending.
Almost. Because it totally isn't.
My number 1 pick is one that I think you'll agree with. Okay. It's a short-lived show that came out a couple years ago. It was a reboot of the Charlie's Angels franchise.
Oh my
CBS.
god, that was terrible.
For those of you who don't know, Charlie's Angels is a 70s property where they had like three tough girls.
They were actually cops that were.
No, all three of them were cops.
They were cops, and they were put in like menial job because they were women, basically.
Yeah.
So basically, Charlie hired them, and he saw the talent in them, and he said, they work for me, and they basically solve crimes and other stuff like that, working for Charlie.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's a rather clumsy attempt at capitalizing on women's lib when you think about it. It's like, oh, they don't get opportunities in the police because they're women. All right, clicked on tick that box. That's an interesting box to tick at that time. So they're going to work for a man who's going to give them more opportunities, and you drop the ball.
Yeah. I don't know. Yes, I guess it could have been Charlene's Angels.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm saying. It's a little bit high.
But at least the man saw the potential in them, and he's using them to their full potential. So it's like I'm fine with that, honestly.
It is a product of its times. Let's just put it that way, and it's fine. And also, you never saw Charlie, so it was easier to dismiss him in the sense of like he just points them in a direction, and the women figure things out on their own because they're capable women. That's all cool.
Yeah.
And then Drew Barrymore looked at that show when she was a kid, loved it. Probably looked at it in syndication given her age.
Yeah.
And decided to make 2 movies out of it, which were god awful.
First one was acceptable.
And it was very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is as a result. It's sort of like you can complain about it being extremely campy, but since that's what she meant to do.
Yeah, that's why I kind of liked it. It was really campy. I wasn't expecting much. I went to see it. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
The second one was like, it's not even fun. It's just like the campiness is gone. They're playing it serious all of a sudden. What the hell?
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, but
But it was louder than it was funny.
Yeah, is the thing.
Yeah. I agree. And so that pretty much killed the movie franchise. And so a couple of years later, by which I mean almost a decade, they come up with the Charlie's Angel TV show, again produced by Drew Barrymore, but this time she opted out of acting in it.
Good choice.
Yeah. And it's worse. It's so bad. We wrote a review of the pilot for the show. You can find it at idiomatic.com. Charlie's Angel 101 pilot. But it's
not to mistake with the other 3 episodes that came out afterwards before it got cancelled or something.
Yeah, exactly. It got canceled. But that's what I was gonna say in the review. I said I'm calling this one for the first casualty of the network acts for this year, and nailed it. That thing did not last long.
Yeah.
So many things wrong with it. First of all, the casting. They cast 3 gorgeous women, definitely. Supermodel type. And that's sort of part of the problem, because if you want a woman that's going to have some action and stuff and do stuff and climb walls and be a cat burglar, like the blonde was supposed to be a cat burglar, she can't be 6 feet tall and weigh 102 pounds. It sort of makes for a really lanky, awkward looking cat burglar.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to have the other one be a tough fighter and whatnot, again, supermodel, 6 foot tall, 100 pounds, probably can't throw a punch very well.
And she couldn't.
She
really couldn't.
So it was just so awkward to see these women in action fights, with the exception of the brunette. I think she was pretty good. Yeah. But I might be biased because I find her insanely attractive. So.
Yeah, she was kind of cute.
But that's one of the problems. Then the second problem is the stories were so bad.
I can't even remember them, honestly. I guess they were wiped from my memory because I remember watching the pilot and it was like, I'm not sticking around for part 2.
The pilot had a cute conceit for a pilot, I have to say. And it's funnier if you're into the minutiae of writing and how television works than it is if you're just a casual viewer. Okay. But they sort of wrote it as if it was the season premiere of a show that had been running for a while. So that the Charlie's Angels are established, but one of the cast members doesn't want to be in the show anymore, so she got killed in the finale last year. And then there's they have to scramble around to replace the cast member, and they bring in the brunette there. Okay. And it's all written as if it was the continuation of season 6's cliffhanger, if you will. And they lost a cast member.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a cute conceit. There's one major problem with that. those shows where they start having to replace cast members because the previous cast members are tired of doing the show, they always suck.
Yes.
They suck because it's awkward. They suck because it's tired. They suck because there's a groove in there that's got tiresome, and then they have to find a new
There's
dynamic.
a reason why the person doesn't want to do the show anymore. It's because like I have enough of this. This show's not going nowhere, you know? So I cannot even think of an example of a show that got better as soon as they replaced the cast member. If there are, there's like very few in between.
So you're sort of subliminally inputting that idea into your audience that, oh, this is a continuation of a show that sucked balls. All right, that's it for us. We have talked super long.
Indeed.
If you want to share with us what you think are major fails in TV adaptations, you can write us at mail@idiomatic.com or post a comment at idiomatic.com. Just click on the episode name. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. We're also on iTunes. If you could please write us an iTunes review, that would be super helpful, as well as liking us on Facebook.
Yeah, that's also very helpful.
Because we lack affection.
Indeed.
Yeah. See ya.